What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into a live edition of Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, running through all of the latest free agency news and rumors surrounding the Dirty Birds and just NFL league-wide, because you always got to look at something through the lens of how could this impact the Falcons. Bengals pass rusher Trey Hendrickson is given permission to seek a trade. How could this impact the Falcons? Oh, I don't know. I think Atlanta could be in the market for a pass rusher. So I do want to talk about that and a whole lot more on today's live show. Always appreciate those of you that tune in for our live content, though. It means a lot to see the same names and faces every single week in the live chat. So let me know where you are tuning in from. Shout out your city in the chat. I want to know where all of our wonderful viewers are watching from today before we jump into our first segment. And as always, I forgot something at my desk, and I might need Reed to go get it. I forgot the, can you mute me for a second so that they don't hear it for a second? It's a surprise. Mute it. We're back. Nearly 100 people watching right out of the gates. 12 likes. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button as you find your seat. As I've got Yachty B watching from Atlanta, Travis in ATL as well. Trevor is in Logan, Utah. Vincent is in Rome, Georgia. Time Man the Buckeye, there's Reed, is in Ohio as always. Walter's in Georgia. Blake's in Fort Worth. Jermaine's in Augusta. Richie Rich is in Tampa. Jose Santana's in the house. Longtime viewer, love to see that. We got Reading, PA here. Reno, Nevada. Danville, Pennsylvania, Greenville, North Carolina. There we go. So a lot of people all over the country watching right now. Great to see such a widespread fan base tuning in for our live show today. And what we're going to cover on today's show is the Trey Hendrickson trade request / not request, more of permission given to seek a trade. And then some free agency news and rumors. And then free agent targets for Atlanta at their biggest positions of need. So all of that coming up on today's show. Appreciate everyone who tunes into our regularly scheduled live content. We need to invest in some young dogs. You sure? Bring the whole stack over. There's a whole stack. I had a surprise. I think I have a surprise. I'm like 95% sure I have a surprise. Do I not have the surprise? Maybe I don't have the surprise. Oh, crap. I guess I don't have the surprise. Is Trucker Mike here? No, it's way too early for Trucker Mike. He won't be here for a little bit. Des Moines, Iowa here. PD's taller than Reed. Prove it. No, I guess I don't. Damn. I really thought I got it. Titty City. Okay, no surprise, no surprise. No, it's my fault. I don't know what happened. All right. Yeah, you just put it down over there. It doesn't matter. Just hop back in here. People are wondering who's taller. I don't know. I think you. We've got to stay like shoulder to shoulder. Back to back. Back to back. You're right. Who's taller? R for Reed. M for Matthew. Really? When you walked up, it looked like you'd have it. Oh, it's close. Okay, Yachty B, I guess, is our official. Yeah, Archangel. There we go. That's what I said one night. There we go. Vincent's rolling with Reed. All right, let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of today's live show. We're going to talk all about Trey Hendrickson because that's not a new name for us. Well, if you're a subscriber, it's not a new name because that's what. This is also why when people comment, don't talk about rumors. Talk about it when it's news. Well, now it's news, and guess what? You would have been a month ahead of the curve if you were watching our content a month ago. And I understand not every single rumor turns out to be true, and that's kind of the nature of rumors. But I kind of like the drama side of things, right? Kind of the outside the lines tea, if you will. So I enjoy them. But I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. But when you follow the rumors, not every time, but a lot of times or sometimes, it leads you to the news. And that way you're not like, oh my God, you didn't know Trey Hendrickson was going to request a trade or get permission to seek a trade? I could have told you this a month ago. All right. Let me know right now if you would trade for Trey Hendrickson. Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no in the comment section. While you're doing that, Reed, can we tell everyone what we have coming up on today's episode? We usually do just 3 segments, and I prepared 3 segments for today's show. And then Trey Hendrickson requested a trade. So I thought, you know what? That deserves to be its own video altogether. So we're going to do our usual news and rumors roundup. Hendrickson trade rumors after he was given permission to seek a trade. Free agent targets for Atlanta, and then as always, a mailbag. Use hashtag Falcons to be in that mailbag. Or super chat. If you super chat, you skip the line. We guarantee it gets on screen for all 100 people tuned in at the moment to see. So if you have something you are dying to ask, or maybe a take, an idea you want to share. Oh, Landon, I see at Falcons. You got to do hashtag Falcons. And then who was the other? Nicholas? Where's Nick? I see, yeah. Nicholas, you got to put hashtag Falcons. I feel for the people that watch every single week, and I'm like, how does he keep having to repeat himself? What's wrong? Audio? Don't shake my head. We're having some level of audio issues in here. Taylor Vaughn! Taylor, I hope you watched our video a few days ago because we threw all of your super thanks up on the channel. Greatly appreciated, by the way. Now we got a super chat coming in from Mr. Vaughn. How many likes to share your proposal story to your fiance? We're at 33. Someone just unliked it. I don't know. I think this story, I might lose viewers mid-story because I don't think people are tuning in for that. But how about 100? That seems like a fair number, right? We're at 33. Taylor, we can do Grand Limousine. I just got an email from Grand Limousine like 20 minutes before we went live. Yeah, well, Grand Limousine is going to be our limousine partner for my wedding. So, Grand Limousine's a man of few words. Also, Grand Limousine's not a man of few words in the email. We've had a lot of back and forths. But Grand Limousine, thank you. We'll do 100 likes, Taylor. If we can get to 100 likes, we can do the story. I don't know if it's like a great story, but it's not I'm biased, but it's not a boring story. There's one funny part to it that I think is worth sharing. We got 115 people tuned in right now, Taylor. If everyone liked the video, we'd get to 100 likes. 60 to go. So let's not waste any more of your time, though, because I don't like my time being wasted. So let's jump into some of the news and rumors out there. We're going to do that first, or are we doing Trey Hendrickson first? Okay, news and rumors first, and then Trey Hendrickson. I promise we're going to get to it. This is going to be the order of operations right here because I had this planned, and then this happened. And I didn't want to cuck this, so we're just going to go back to back. That's what she said. Nicholas, thank you for doing hashtag Falcons. Nate the Great, appreciate you for doing hashtag Falcons. Kyle, Grand Limousine is the GOAT. Grand Limousine is the GOAT. And Ty Man the Buckeye in the house. Look at that. Perfect. Okay. Are we ready to rumble? 119 people tuned in right now. Salute to every single one of you watching because the casuals are going to tune in next week. I guarantee if we go live next week, which I'm hoping / planning to do, we'll have like double the audience. And the OGs are going to be like, who are these new cats? Where have you guys been this whole time? A little late to the party. You didn't know the Falcons were going to do this? Well, that's because you didn't watch last week. So here we go. Jumping into our first segment, a complete free agency news and rumors roundup. Philip with a $10 super. Let's save Philip's super chat. Sorry, Philip, not to blue ball you, but let's save it for after the first segment because it looked like it has a great question in it, and I want to give you your fair time and answer. So here we go. Live edition of Falcons Today starting right now. What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into Falcons Today. I want to start by talking about some of the free agency news and rumors out there revolving around Atlanta. So a lot to cover as free agency unofficially begins 11 a.m. Eastern time on Monday. That's when legal tampering begins. But if you're Kirk Cousins and your agent, it's already started a long time before then. And then the official new league year begins March 12th, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. But some of the free agency buzz out there that I could see trickling down to Atlanta. Joey Bosa was released by the Chargers we're filming this during our live show on Thursday, and this happened Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, Bosa cut by LA. This is a name that we've talked about before on the channel, by the way, as one of those cut candidates that will then become a free agent target, but they're not a free agent just yet, which is why you should subscribe so you know these things before they happen. But Bosa was released in a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, the Chargers saved $25 million in cap space. 9 seasons in LA. A lot of them were really good, but unfortunately, a good amount were also plagued by injuries, especially the past 3 seasons. Although he was pretty healthy in 2024, but before that, he missed a ton of time. He's basically missed about 50% of games over the past 3 seasons. So, could the Falcons be in pursuit of the 5-time Pro Bowler? I would not rule it out. He's coming off a 14-game season where he put up 5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles and a handful of tackles for loss as well. But you go back to, and I know it was a while ago, but 2021 played a full season pretty much in 10.5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, 20 QB hits. Sadly, since then, he suffered some very severe injuries that probably will get in the way of him ever getting back to that pre-injury form. But for the right price, yeah, I mean, if you as an edge rusher just bump titties with a quarterback, I kind of want you in Atlanta because that's how desperate the Falcons are for a pass rusher. They are 32nd in team sacks since 2021. They have constantly been in the cellar of sacks. So sure, Bosa might be old, he might be washed, he might be injury prone, but we're not above Joey Bosa. We're not above anyone. That's how bad the pass rush is. Now, I don't think they should just go out and recklessly sign every single player to monster contracts. That would be a bit inappropriate. But I think that for the right price, Bosa on a 1-year, $8 million contract, who says no? Maybe Bosa, but I would say yes. My money's on Bosa stays in the West Coast and goes to San Francisco and plays with his brother Nick. Now, free agency is going to be here before you know it, and we are trying to get up to 34,000 subscribers. Help me accomplish this goal. I do need your help, so if you have not subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. And if you are subscribed, this might be a little sentimental, but let me know when you started subscribing to the channel. That way I can get a good idea of, hey, this was a time period where we picked up a lot of subscribers. What can I do to try and recreate that era? Moving on to the next piece of free agency news. Is this one more of a rumor? I think so. Matthew Judon staying in Atlanta. We have not talked about Judon a ton on the channel because I didn't think he'd come back. And I didn't think the Falcons wanted him back, and I didn't think he'd want to come back. But he posted on his Instagram story a picture of him in his Falcons uniform. Some people are looking at this as headline news. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I'm very bad at deciphering what athletes' tweets and posts are these days. I'm one of the worst in the biz when it comes to this means that. I'll tell you what. I'll be surprised if Judon comes back. One, why would Atlanta want him back? They gave up a 3rd-round pick for him and kind of stunk, right? He was underwhelming. He picked things up towards the end of the season once Raheem took over the defense after the bye week and helped stop the run to then create more obvious passing situations for his edge rushers to get after the quarterback. So you'll look at the box score of the year and see, 5.5 sacks. That's not so bad. But you and I know it wasn't that great of a year for Judon. So while he did have a really good stretch, and listen, I was an advocate for the Falcons to go out and trade for him because they needed pass rush help, and I don't think I thought it would cost a 3rd-round draft pick, so that was a little bit on the steeper end for a guy coming off a 4-sack, 4-game season in 2023, but at least they tried, so I can't be too mad at Fontenot for that. If he does return, the only path I see is it's an incentive-heavy contract. I'll be pretty disappointed if they re-sign Judon to like a 1-year, $10 million deal, nearly all guaranteed, and it's like, why did you put so much of your cap space that you don't have a ton of into a player who is pretty underwhelming for you? Whereas you give him an incentive-heavy contract, you can save some cap space to use on other players. Now, between Bosa and Judon, if you had to bring one to Atlanta or bring back Judon, which one would it be? I'd go with Bosa over Judon, and I know that the best abilities, availability, and Bosa sadly has not had that for a handful of seasons in his 9-year career, but the peaks are much higher with Joey. So I'll roll the dice on him. Third and fourth topic I want to discuss. Nate Landman and D. Alford were both not tendered. We're going to talk about what that means. It's not a chicken tender. It's a restricted free agent, RFA. Let's start with Landman, though. So the Falcons decided, like with Alford, not to tender him. There are 3 types of free agents. Unrestricted, which is what 90% of free agents are. Restricted free agents, which are about 5% of free agents. And then exclusive rights free agents. We're talking about restricted here. What that means is Atlanta has the first opportunity to place a tender on that player, which is a contract amount. Another team can match it, and if they do match it, Atlanta then can make another offer, or that team can give the Falcons a draft pick for that player. You rarely see teams match a restricted free agent's tender offer. So, in English, he's going to hit free agency as an unrestricted free agent now. He can sign with any team that he would like. It does not mean the Falcons are not going to bring him back. It likely means the Falcons are telling him, go hit the market, see what offers you get. And then depending on what other teams think your value is, if we think that's an appropriate amount, we'll make the same offer and we'd like to have you back. But if you get calls from other teams that say, we want to pay you $7 million, Atlanta might go, well, we don't think you're worth 7. But if someone else does, cheers to them and best of luck. Happy trails moving forward. Landman, though, has been one of the most consistent pieces in a lot of ways on this defense for the last 2 years. He stepped in quite nicely for Trey Hendrickson in 2023. The guy's got, nearly 200 tackles over the last 2 seasons combined. He had an awesome 2023 campaign, and then we just did not see the same guy in 2024. And I think a big reason was because of the injuries. He suffered a quad injury during preseason, which he played through in week 1, and that put a ton of stress on the quad and on his calf, which required him to hit injured reserve right before that Eagles Monday night game, missed 4 games, and when he came back, him and Anderson, who was battling an injury as well, did not look nearly like 100%. So I am on board with a reunion, though. I don't think he's going to have a crazy market in free agency. Linebackers to begin with just don't get paid a ton anymore, but I think it's worth a 1-year contract to see, can we get that 2023 guy back after maybe some time to recover and let the body get healthy? Because that 2023 player definitely would have been tendered. 2024 player, I can understand some of the reservation, but I'm willing to believe that was a result of the injury, not this is truly who he is, and 2023 was the outlier. We're going to talk about D. Alford next up on the show, but I do want to give a quick shout-out to our friends over at Prize Picks. You see, Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players. Now, basketball season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Here's an example of what some selections look like with March Madness just almost here. Prize Picks is an awesome place to be even more engaged in all the fun games. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. So our former CFL star for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, D. Alford, is in the same boat as Landman. He was a restricted free agent who Atlanta has decided not to place a tender on, which means he will become an unrestricted free agent. I thought Alford, like Landman, was really strong in 2023, and then 2024 came here, and it was as if someone else put his pads on. It was a different player, I think, for a few reasons. One, I think he was not picked on. He played more in 2024 than he did in 2023. And as a result of that, that meant more targets his way, which resulted in more receptions, thus more yards, and a lot more touchdowns. But there's no changing it here. He was worse in 2024 than 2023. I don't think we have to argue about that, right? We're all on the same page here. Alford looked like, hey, that's a really solid find from the CFL's a nickel corner. And then 2024, he took a big step back. So the nickel position, I think, is criminally underrated in the NFL because with the evolution of the modern NFL offense, you're seeing way more 3 wide receiver sets than ever before, which means you need 3 quality starting corners. Plus, not just for the 3 receivers on the field, but you're seeing tight ends every single year continue to have a big role in teams' offenses, and those guys just slip into the flat, and you know whose responsibility it is? The nickel. You got a 185 corner trying to tackle a 230-pound tight end. You better have a pretty good nickel corner that can take down someone not twice his size, but a lot larger than him. So there is a lot of value in having a strong nickel corner. I think it's an underrated position group, and I think you're going to see more teams target it earlier in the draft. But there's no sugarcoating it. Alford was bad this past season. So if the Falcons let him walk, that's not one I'm going to, be distraught over. I would prefer to have Nate Landman re-sign if I had to pick between one of the two. I just think his highs in 2023 were higher than Alford's highs, and I think it's a fair reason to point to the injuries in 2024 for the regression, whereas D, I don't really have a good reason for that. So if I had to pick one to re-sign, I would go with Nate Landman, but I do want to get your opinion on it down below in the comment section. Let me know who you think Atlanta should bring back if you had to pick one. That will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe down below if you have not already. That way we can keep you guys in the know all season and free agency and draft long on everything related to your favorite team. I know I forgot to have us pick names ahead of time. Should we pick names right now for the next one? Okay. So I forgot to do the wheel spin there because I wanted to pick names from the chat to reward those of you tuning in right now. So I'm just going to pick out the next 6 names I see. You ready? All right, let me know when you're in a good typing position. $200 people tuned in at the moment, so appreciate everyone for watching with us here. We go live every single Thursday. We're going to be breaking down all the free agent moves and news and rumors next week. But we are going to talk about the Trey Hendrickson trade request / permission next up on the show, so don't go anywhere. But I always love getting you guys involved as much as possible. It's called Chat Sports, not Matthew Sports, so I want you guys to have a big voice in the show. You guys are all like well-trained monkeys. They're just spamming ATL. I didn't even say spam ATL. Let's add Philip Hindman. Let's add, ready, the next one? The Whiffler. The Whiffler sounds like a character from the show Greek. Did you ever watch Greek? That's good trivia right there. Let's add Derek H. Bosa D's nuts. I said, who did I say? I said the Bosa D's. Oh, Derek H. Derek Hensey. We can just kind of abbreviate a little bit. Let's add Jackson C. Let's add Kang Blaze. Gotta do Archangel. And then Vincent Cuts. Let's save that for the next segment. Sounds good? I know. I don't know what's wrong with the cord. Yeah, Time Man, if we have audio issues, just let me know, please. Be my ears in the sky, if you will. We're at 64 likes. Goal is 100 likes. I do need your help to accomplish that goal. So hit that thumbs up button down below if you haven't yet. All right, let's talk about the Trey Hendrickson news because Atlanta in need of some pass rush help. This obviously makes a lot of sense. For a second right now, you get to see how the sausage is made. But the mic's not working, so I have to look at the camera and not look at Reed. Reed, later script, so let's just add some, breaks in between things like that. You know what I mean? Okay, sweet. Blake, you're absolutely right. It takes 2 seconds. I do like sometimes you see like car insurance companies like Geico, 15 minutes to save you 15%. 15 minutes is a lot of time for me, like in terms of like attention span. Like if I gotta fill out a form for 15 minutes, I'm probably not filling out that form. I gotta be honest. If it requires 15 minutes of like clicking through, clicking next, and things like that, you're gonna lose me after minute 4. Nighthawk, that is correct, and that will be discussed during this. Yeah, they don't have a lot, so that will definitely be a talking point. But are we ready to talk about the Trey Hendrickson trade request? I keep saying request. It's more of a permission. Okay, we're going to try and do a quick audio repair. You ready to go? All right, here we go. NC Show, getting a question in. Thank you. My Swanker, we need to trade down for more picks. You're going to lose audio in just a second. Okay, we're back. How does it sound to everyone watching right now? I kind of hear the crackle myself. All right, well, it's a look forward type of show today. You have to call me Nighthawk. You have to call me Dragon. Let's get into it. I don't want to keep you guys on hold any longer. There's nothing worse than being on hold and they just keep playing the same music. Imagine like if you were on hold with a company and they had some trivia going. I'd actually prefer to be on hold a little longer. Someone's got to hire me. Audio good? Trick says, ow, my ears. I don't want to make Trix's ears bleed. Archangel, is the audio good? Dave Joseph is here. Dave, it's been a while, has it not? Blake says the audio is good. I'm going to run with Blake. All right. Let's get into it. We've got some trade rumors because the Bengals have granted permission to Trey Hendrickson, the NFL's leading sack getter, permission to seek a trade. So I want to discuss the possibility of Atlanta entering the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes, what it could cost, whether or not I think it's going to happen, and probably most importantly, whether or not Atlanta should do it. Because the Falcons, as we all know, desperately need a pass rusher. And here's a guy with back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. He is 31 years old, so this could be a case of moving on 1 year too early compared to 1 year too late. But Hendrickson, I think, is not, I guess we'll say criminally. Criminally is a strong word, but he's underrated, that's for sure. When you talk about some of the best pass rushers in our game, you go back to 2021 to present, he's 3rd in sacks. He's top 10 in tackles for loss. He's top 5 in QB hits and pressures, and he's tied for 2nd in forced fumbles. I know all eyes are always on Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, and rightfully so, but Trey Hendrickson is not some Joe Schmo. I think if he had 1 17.5 sack season, okay, let's see if that's a consistent thing or not. 2, now we have a pattern here. So I think from a player standpoint, I don't have much concern about Hendrickson. Now, being 31 years old and looking for a new contract, I don't know if he strikes me as someone that's going to keep this high play up for 2 to 3 more seasons that you'd likely have to ink him to in a not sign and trade, but trade and extension, because that's what's going to happen here. But I do think that the Falcons make a lot of sense in most ways because they were 31st in sacks last year. They have been 32nd in sacks altogether since 2021 when Terry Fontenot took over. But as badly as I'd like to see Atlanta pull the trigger on a trade for Hendrickson, from a realistic standpoint, it seems tough to accomplish. The Falcons do not have much draft capital to offer up. They essentially only have 3 picks that are worth anything in a trade because they've got 2 7th-rounders that I'm just going to ignore altogether. That's not helpful here at all. A first, which is way too much for Hendrickson in my eyes. A second, which I think is ballpark. Like, that seems in the area. But then you're going to go from your first-round pick all the way to the 4th round and then all the way to the 7th round. You're essentially going to have 2 picks of value. 15th and round 4. That's what makes a trade for Hendrickson tough to really seem like it can get off the ground. I have no doubt, or I at least hope, that Atlanta's going to pick up the phone and go, Cincy, what are you looking for? Let's talk numbers. And my suspicion is the Bengals go, we're looking for a 2nd rounder. And that doesn't seem like too big of an ask. But for Atlanta, that's one of their 3 good picks. That's 33% of their top 4 picks, like top 4-round picks. And that might just be a moment where, as badly as they love to trade for the NFL's reigning sack leader, that might be too rich for them. So if a Hendrickson trade to Atlanta does happen, I think it happens this way. The Falcons get the Bengals to agree to a 2026 2nd-round pick. This situation only happens if the Bengals get calls and they are getting offered 3rd-round picks. And Atlanta goes, can I pick up some, like a loan almost, of, I don't have a 3rd-rounder for you this year, but what about a future 2nd-rounder? Some GMs would be timid to do this because they may not have a job in 2026. The Bengals don't have a GM. They have Duke Tobin, who's been the director of player personnel since 1999. It's a monarchy in Cincinnati. It's a family, it's a mom and pop shop that runs the team. So if you're Duke and you go, well, I know that I'll have a job by then, because that's the way this works. It's the mafia here. I can afford to wait an extra year to see the draft pick for Trey if it's going to be a better draft pick than a 3rd-rounder this year. But this is purely dependent on no one else offers a 2nd-round pick this year. Maybe the case, maybe not. But that's a big dependent. And it may not be something that Atlanta can count on happening. So, believe me, as the minister of get every edge rusher to Atlanta, I'd love to see a Trey Hendrickson trade happen. I'd love to go live on the channel for a Trey Hendrickson trade. In fact, I'm traveling down to Houston this weekend for my fiance's coworker's wedding. I'd love to slip away and do a live from my phone next to the bar at the wedding for a Trey Hendrickson trade. But I'm just struggling to come up with, what is Atlanta going to offer the Bengals that's better than any other's team? I'll add one more scenario as you guys let me know if you do a trade for Hendrickson. Let's say the Bengals get 3 trade offers for Trey Hendrickson. Let's say it is the Falcons. Let's say it's the Bills. And let's say it is the, I think of another, Texans. No, it won't be the Texans. They're really good at pass rusher. Let's say it's the Chargers. Okay? That's viable right there. Maybe the Bengals take a slightly lesser offer with Atlanta because they don't want to run into Hendrickson in the playoffs on Buffalo or on LA. You need no other NFC teams to be a part of these conversations then. And now we're really getting down a lot of ifs, right? And that's where you probably start to lose faith. But that to me has to be the only path. The Bengals agree, we'll do a future draft pick when you're back in round 2. You're back in all the other rounds and you can afford to part ways with your 2nd-round pick. And no other NFC team is making a good offer, so we're comfortable taking a little bit less to make sure we don't play Hendrickson in the AFC Championship game. I'm not trying to sell you guys on, beachfront property in Oklahoma, because it's probably not very likely here. But that is my only hope, if you will. Now, we're doing this show during our live show, which airs every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So we do have a live question coming in from Falcons Fury. Can we trade Pitts to the Bengals for Hendrickson? That's an excellent idea. And I do think that's something that the Bengals could be interested in. They do like their tight end, Mike Gesicki, a lot. He is a free agent, however. So if they were to lose him in free agency, then that could really increase the chances of the Bengals maybe taking not as great of a draft pick, but in lieu, they get a tight end like Pitts. This to me seems like plausible. You don't often see player-for-player swaps in the NFL, kind of like almost straight up. There would definitely be some draft picks that go back and forth. It'd probably be like Pitts and a fifth rounder next year for Hendrickson. I think Atlanta would have to be the one that offers a pick to get Trey away, despite including Trey Hendrickson, despite including Kyle Pitts themselves. So I like the idea. When free agency starts, you are rooting for another team to sign Mike Gesicki if you want to trade Pitts to Cincinnati to get Trey Hendrickson. If Gesicki comes back, I don't think they have a big need anymore at tight end. I'll also add this too. The fact that the Bengals are allowing Hendrickson to request permission to seek a trade and do some work on it probably means they are putting all of their focus on extending Jamar Chase, which we knew they were going to do, but also T. Higgins. And that's been the biggest question mark, was what are they going to do with T after franchise tagging him? If they do reach extensions with both Chase and Higgins, maybe they don't feel the need to go out and get a tight end now. But if they don't get T. Higgins on an extension, maybe they feel like we got to go out and get another pass catcher. Although they got him tagged, so Higgins is going to be there one way or another, whether he's playing or not. So that's kind of the latest, if you will, on Trey Hendrickson. Make sure to subscribe, by the way. That way, when news breaks, you've not only got your notifications on and you're the first to know that we're going live for a Trey Hendrickson trade reaction, but also for all free agency, tracker, news, rumors, things like this, you are not in the dark. A few more things I want to touch on before we sign off here, but there is an awesome deal going on at Fanatics right now. They've got some of their sideline gear 35% off. Pretty good savings if you ask me. So go to chatsports.com/ATL sale. I know as the weather begins to warm up, you don't think, oh, let's get a long sleeve kind of pullover. But when the fall rolls around and you want to get some more Falcons gear, future you is going to kiss old you because you got this 35% off and you saved your future self a lot of money. At that point, it'll feel free, basically. So I put this link in the comments and description of today's video. To summarize the video, we've got Trey Hendrickson given permission to seek a trade, which basically means the Bengals are letting Hendrickson's agent talk to other teams and learn what his value is and what they would give him in a contract extension. And then Hendrickson's agent can go to the Bengals and go, hey, Atlanta's willing to trade for him. They want to give you this in compensation. And they also want to give Trey a 3-year, $70 million extension, whatever the number is, right? And then the Bengals can decide, okay, so that's what another team thinks he's worth. Well, we thought he was worth that too. So if that's his value, then we're willing to pay that, right? We actually thought you were looking for a little bit more than that. Let's say the Bengals made an offer of 3 years, $60 million. And Hendrickson's agent does some work and he comes back and he goes, no one's offering us more than $60 million, whatever the number the Bengals gave him was. Well, at that point, then they might decide, hey, if we're not getting more anywhere else, maybe we should take Cincinnati's offer. Although I don't believe there has been any offer made. So this might just be a pure, you're going to get traded, go do the dirty work for us and come back with some offers and we'll decide which one we want to do. Before we let you on out of here, let's spin the wheel. We picked 6-7 commenters from our live chat during the live show. So shout out to everyone who tunes into our weekly Thursday live show. And let's get this wheel spun. Who's it going to be? It is, I don't know where the line is, but I'm feeling pretty good. It's Philip H. Philip H. Philip, thank you for being a loyal viewer of the channel. 2 claps for Philip, everyone. 1, 2. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll see everyone tomorrow. So what's the consensus? Do we want to trade for Hendrickson? Right? I think everyone's on board with, like, in theory, it's a good idea. Is anyone opposed to the idea of trading for 31-year-old reigning NFL sack leader Trey Hendrickson? The age can be a fair turnoff. The age plus, you're going to have to give him a brand new contract. It's going to be a big contract, and that might be too rich for your liking.
So something that so when you talk about, second-round draft pick, if he's 2 years younger even,
yeah,
I'm good sending a second. But since he's not, and he's not 2 years younger, it'd have to be a fourth. But, like, since we don't have a third would be perfect in this.
There's just no way he's going for a fourth.
No way.
Because Judon just went for a third. Hendrickson's way better than Judon. I know he's a bit older, but he's much better. I will say that the 30-year-old marker, it scares me for some positions. Not so sure about the edge rusher spot. Like, you do lose some of your speed naturally as you get older, but you're not asking edge rushers to run a go route, right?
He is.
And as you play the position longer, you start to win not only because of your talent and your God-given physical traits, but because you study offensive linemen, you are an absolute magician with your hands, and you get them unbalanced because of all the film work you did, and in poor footing situations, and you still get to the quarterback despite not being as fast as you were 5, 6, 7 years ago. We got Phillip, who, by the way, he was our winner on the wheel spin. Phillip Hinman. What are the chances Jimmy Lake held Judon back and his production was down because his role was changed? What does Jimmy Lake have to gain in this? So he can get fired? It's in Jimmy Lake's best interest to sack the quarterback. If you get to the quarterback, that's going to be an impressive stat that if other things are bad, that could cover it up. If you're constantly getting to the quarterback, even if you've got issues stopping the run, or maybe your DBs aren't as good, if you're sacking the quarterback, you're probably going to be looked at as a better DC than a DC who does not get to the quarterback, but can stop the run and also is good in coverage. That was kind of the Falcons' defense last year. They were really good at stopping the run for the second half of the year, and they were adequate in the coverage. Tony Takanawa. What's going on, Tony? He was a volunteer. GP. Also, PD looking thinner, man. Keep it up. Tony, thank you very much. Who was a volunteer during the Bay of Pigs invasion? He has been playing since Reagan's first term. Tony's a funny man. All right. Thank you, Mr. Takanawa. Dave Joseph, trade Pitts for Trey all day. If you could do a player-for-player swap, I would do it. And I know that the Kyle Pitts stands are raging right now in anger. Boys and girls, the Kyle Pitts stands watching right now. I'm not standing here thinking or presenting to you guys this idea that Pitts is a bad tight end. I don't think he's bad. I think he's a good tight end. Here's the issue. I don't think the Falcons do. How do I know that? How do I think that? Well, for one, he played less than 50% of snaps the last 5 weeks of the season. 2, Terry Fontenot said after the season he's been underwhelming. Those don't seem like encouraging signs to me. So you might believe Pitts is going to be great. I don't know what to tell you. The Falcons don't. What's that? The Falcons' actions speak louder than words. And him standing on the sideline, more often than not, the last couple of weeks, does not scream. Now, that's a guy I want to give, what's the number? $10.8 million guaranteed to. Dude, like, Robert, give him one more chance with Penix. Listen, if the coaching staff will, then yes, I'm in. But if the coaching staff does not plan to play him with Penix, since they didn't do it very much when he was starting, what are we keeping him around for? So we can leave in free agency? And you can have $10 million plus guaranteed in cap space to a guy who played 47, 48% of snaps? Someone give me a good actual reason. I can't find one.
I just go back to like, we're not. We don't. I think Pitts is a really good tight end. I just think he's not a really good tight end on the Falcons.
Yeah, exactly.
He could be really good on the Bengals. I'm sure Joe Burrow would love to have Kyle Pitts at his tight end spot. They just don't use him.
The only pro, or I'd say the biggest reason I can come up with for keeping Pitts is if you don't get good trade offers, if people just want to offer you junk, then you might as well hold on to him, see if he plays well, and you could get more in a compensatory draft pick. Don't forget about comp draft picks. Teams often weigh in, well, we're getting a 6th-round pick from this team. We might be able to get a 5th in a comp pick, or we might get a 6th in a comp pick. So if we're going to end with a 6 anyway, why not just keep him and have the player and the pick? But in the comp pick formula, if you let him go in free agency, the comp pick formula is made, it's kind of a mystery, first off. It's not kind of, it is a mystery. It's dependent on how good the player is and how much he's signed for. If another team signs him next year for $15 million and you go out and sign a $15 million tight end, well, then no one's going to feel like you need to be compensated for losing Kyle Pitts since you just wouldn't replace him yourself. So we've gone through our first 2 segments. We talked about some of the free agency news, the Trey Hendrickson trade rumors and news all together. Now I want to look at some free agent targets for Atlanta before our mailbag. So continue to pepper your questions into the chat. Use hashtag Falcons or Super Chat to guarantee your question or your take, your idea gets on screen for everyone watching. Have we had eyes on Trucker Mike, by the way? Because this is around the time he files on in. Someone let me know if Trucker Mike is spotted in the chat. Otherwise, let's get into our next segment. I'm not trading Pitts for a 5th for him to ball out on another team. Yeah, Archangel, I get that, but imagine if you just let him go in free agency and he balls out on another team and you have no pick. Which scenario would you rather have there? All right, here we go. Let's start our next segment. Coming up on today's show, I want to run through Atlanta's biggest needs going into free agency, along with some targets at those needs. Now, I think it's important to note that a team may have, let's say, 5 positional needs. But if those needs don't align with the strengths of free agency and the markets for those positions, I don't think the Falcons, or any team for that matter, should be big buyers at that position simply because they need help at that position. Like, I think we all know Atlanta's biggest needs are Bueller, defensive line, outside linebacker, this is just edge rusher altogether, corner, Justin Simmons is a free agent, Drew Dahlman's a free agent, but let's say they lose Drew Dahlman in free agency and they now need a new center. I don't think they should go out and just spend a bunch of money at center because they need a center. Now, if your needs don't align with the strengths of free agency, then you should wait till the draft where it's much cheaper to fill those spots. But let's run through some of the more notable Falcons free agents, and I put down some predictions as to whether or not they're going to come back. Rondale Moore, I kind of want to upgrade it from a question mark. They traded for him. They never got to see him play because of an ACL tear early in preseason. But I'm sure the Falcons would be down to bring him back on a cheap contract since they traded for him in the first place. I think they're going to work very hard to bring back Daryl Hodge. He's terrific on special teams. Drew Dahlman, I got that emoji for, I don't know, Jim. I think he's going to find more money elsewhere, but I'm sure Atlanta would love to have him back. Ryan Newsel, he's a restricted free agent or exclusive rights, one of the two. He's going to come back one way or another. Storm Norton has been this team's swing tackle, and he's done a good job at it, so I'd be down to bring him back, but let's see if Atlanta decides to maybe go a different direction. Eddie Goldman, I thought played pretty well this past season, but he's kind of getting up there in the age column, and he sat out for 2 years, so 3 years almost. I think it is 3 years. COVID year, and then retired twice, so who knows? That's a coin flip with like 10 different sides on it. Kentavious Street, they re-signed him last offseason, so I'm leaning towards more likely than not. Judon, I did not think would be coming back, but I upgraded that to a question mark because of some rumors of a potential return. I don't see James Smith-Williams or Lorenzo Carter coming back. Landman, I think, could go either way. D. Alford, I think, is likely gone. Hughes, I could see going either way, but I think maybe more so yes than no. Simmons is in the same boat as Dahlman of, I don't know, Jim. Maybe, maybe not. I'd be on board, and I'll talk more about it later. And then Richie Grant, I don't think so. So those are some of the more notable free agent and some early predictions as to what's going to happen with them. We can revisit this in a few weeks here. But now I want to look at some external free agents at Atlanta's biggest needs, starting with the defensive line. I want to be specific here because I know we're searching for an edge rusher, but that comes in many sizes and shapes and forms. So with a 3-4 defense, which Atlanta run last year, and we'll see if Jeff Ulbrich wants to run it back, we're looking for a 5 technique, right? Kind of like a Calais Campbell, a defensive end who's going to put his hand in the turf every single play. Here are some of the more notable defensive ends. Draymond Jones, a third-round pick by the Broncos, went to Seattle, underwhelming there. He was released early in his contract. Josh Sweat is probably the most popular name coming off a Super Bowl run. I think a team's going to overpay him because of that. I hope that team is not Atlanta because I just don't think Sweat can be your star pass rusher, and I think he's going to be paid like a star pass rusher. Some more affordable options, DeMarcus Walker, Derek Barnett, Travis Gibson. I like those guys for what you could get in terms of what you pay versus what you get out of them. Chase Young obviously has a lot of name notoriety. Second overall pick, defensive rookie of the year not too long ago. Played every single game this past year when there were a lot of concerns about his availability. A neck injury that popped up during free agency last year. Obviously tearing his ACL early in Washington, but he looked pretty good for the Saints last season. So while I do think there are some good pros there, I have concerns over the maturity. Malcolm Kuntz, Charles Omenihu, and Marcus Davenport, some other names, along with Azeez Ojulari. Ojulari is young. He's the youngest, I think, of the bunch. He's 24 years old. So I could see a team giving him a nice, big, fat contract. Same goes for him as Josh Sweat. A team's going to pay him to be a star pass rusher. I don't think he is a star pass rusher. So I'd probably pass on Ojulari if it starts to become a bidding war. Now, one name I want to highlight is Malcolm Kuntz. Not a household name. Plays for the Raiders, third-round pick out of Buffalo. Missed all of 2024 with a preseason injury. But 2023, 9 tackles for loss, 8 sacks. 8 sacks would be the most on this team. 2024, 2023, I could probably keep going back, sadly. So don't brush him off because it's not double-digit sacks. Plus, I think teams are going to not give him a lucrative offer coming off an injury. And that could be an opportunity for Atlanta to pounce a little bit because there's just not a Danielle Hunter, right? There's not a Jonathan Grenard. Those were 2 star pass rushers in free agency last year. They're not here this year, so I'm not going to force it. I will force it in the draft where there are plenty of great pass rushers. But I'm going to go bargain hunting in free agency, which might sound weird coming out of my mouth, but I don't want to see Atlanta just make a big signing for the sake of making a big signing. Be a little bit calculated. Now let's move on to the other spot, which is outside linebacker. Now, an outside linebacker is going to have different responsibilities than a defensive end. They're going to be responsible for dropping in coverage every so often. So you're looking for some more athletic guys and not just pure sellout for the pass. Here are some outside linebackers. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Hassan Reddick, all notable veteran players. As is Matthew Judon. There's Lorenzo Carter, Darrell Taylor, Shaq Thompson, longtime Panther. Baron Browning, third-round pick by the Broncos, has had some really good stretches, but some injury concerns. I forgot all about Josh Uche. Remember last year we were talking about trading for him? Yeah, he sucked for the Chiefs this past year. But if I'm going to highlight one name or two, I'm going to go with Khalil Mack. I think Khalil Mack can still play at a high level. And we saw that in 2023. That's not too many moons ago. Sure, big regression year in terms of just sack production from 2023 to 2024. But they also had some younger guys who really needed to break through a little bit. So Mack's snaps started to go down. You give Mack the same snaps he had in 2023 as he did in same snaps in 2024 as he did in 2023, and you might not get 17 sacks, but you're going to get more than 6, a lot more than 6. Now, Bosa is another guy to keep an eye on because he could be released, he is released, so he could pop up on their radar. If we're going bargain hunting, though, Baron Browning is a name to watch for. He's not going to cost you much at all. He was traded from the Broncos to the Cardinals, only 2 sacks, so I'm not going to stand up here and pound my drum for him. But he's had some really good stretches with Denver. And I think if you can capture those stretches and extrapolate it over a 17-game sample size, you could get a really good pass rusher. He's got the coverage abilities. He played inside linebacker at college. He made the transition to outside linebacker. He's an athletic dude. He can play a lot of positions. He can be versatile for you. I'm not here advocating for him to be a player that's going to come into Atlanta and put up 12 sacks. But if you're looking for maybe a cheaper-ish option, this would be my cheaper, affordable target. So when it comes to the edge spot, do you think Atlanta needs to go out there and make the biggest signing of all 32 teams for a pass rusher? I would think so, right? They were 31st in sacks last year. But there's not a great option. Here's my bad Colin Cowherd analogy, all right? Let's say you're given $100 for dinner. You go to the restaurant and it sucks. You're going to spend all $100 because you have it? Maybe you just spend $50 and you keep the other $50 for something else, like a trade. That seems like a more viable path for me. On to the cornerback position now. So, you got a couple of free agents at cornerback for Atlanta, and we'll see whether or not they bring any of them back. But 3 starting corners and 2 are set to hit free agency. So, let's check out some external options. Carlton Davis, he was really strong for the Lions before he got injured late in the season. Of course, we remember him from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Charvarius Ward is going to get way too much money. DJ Reed, I also think, is probably going to get too much money, but he also has the Jeff Ulbrich connection from their time in New York together. Byron Murphy, he's a starter. I don't think Atlanta's looking for starting corner type of player because that player wants starting corner type of money. They've got starting corner type of money going to A.J. Terrell. They're probably looking for a CB2 type of player who wants CB2 money. That could be more of like a Rasul Douglas, maybe a Dane. Although those guys are going to be right there on the fringe of CB2, CB1 type of money. I'm not opposed to a Mike Hughes reunion. I thought he played his role pretty well last year, right? You paid very little for him. You got not very little out of him, but you got average play. Now, the name that I've become more and more drawn to is Asante Samuel. You might get a little bit of a discount because he missed most of 2024, but this is a player who has a ton of familiarity and experience in a zone-based defense, and that is what Raheem Morris runs. I think Samuel is an excellent target. He's super athletic. He's got great lineage, as we all know. I think Samuel would be a fantastic signing for Atlanta. He would be one of my favorite targets for the Falcons in free agency. Very close to the top of the list, if not at the top of the list across all players. Now, as for Mike Hughes, if they do decide to bring him back, I'm not going to drown in misery and go, that's an awful decision. He never had an impact play, right? There was never a Mike Hughes moment, but he also wasn't a liability. He was really good at the start of the year. Later on in the season, I think the lack of the pass rush just started to wear on him a little bit, but I'm not opposed to a Hughes reunion, but I think you could definitely do better. Before we look at the other free agent targets out there, quick shout out to Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. You see, over at Prize Picks, they put their members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. They also offer Venmo and MasterCard for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this season. So here is how it works. All you do is select 2 to 6 players and then choose more or less on their projected stats. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. It's an awesome place to check out as we get towards March Madness if you want to have some extra interest while watching those games. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's talk about safety now, because this is not as pressing of a need compared to the other positions out there, but one of your two starting safeties is an unrestricted free agent. We'll see how much confidence Atlanta has in DeMarco Hellams, who missed all of 2024 with that ankle injury. The fact that I don't think they ever brought it back, right? We're going to fact check myself right now in real time here, but I don't remember him ever coming back last year. And the fact that he didn't come back this past season, yeah, he didn't. That ankle injury was not supposed to be season ending in the preseason. So they probably just didn't want to give a roster spot to him. If they didn't want to give a roster spot to him, maybe they don't view him as a starter. So with that, or he said, hey, or he suffered a setback in his ankle rehab. But anywho, I digress. Here are some external free agent targets along with Justin Simmons. There's no big-time name here, but you're not looking for a big-time name, right? You've got Jesse Bates. You just don't need a bad safety next to him. Now, I like the idea of Atlanta trying to pair Bates with Simmons to try and compensate for a lack of a pass rush and go, all right, if we're not going to get to the quarterback, then we're sure going to make it difficult for the quarterback to find an open receiver. And while Simmons did not have the usual takeaways we saw in Denver, I still think he was a good starting caliber safety in the league. One name I'm going to put on your radar is Jeremy Chin. You might remember him from the Panthers. He went over to the Commanders last year. Up and down is probably the best way to put it in a positive way, but I'd be interested in that. I don't expect Atlanta to spend big at the safety position. That's just not a room you see teams spend a ton at. And Atlanta has already made one big safety free agent investment. I don't expect them to match that with another big safety free agent investment. So I'd like to roll it back with Justin Simmons. I'm sure we were hoping for a little bit more, but man, boo-hoo, 2 interceptions, 7 pass breakups. What a bad year. Like, the interceptions came early in the season, right? You had the one against the Chiefs, and I can't remember when the second one was, but regardless, I think for what he's probably going to get in free agency, last year I think he signed a $7 million contract. Probably going to be closer to $5 million this year. I'd be content with having some continuity at the back end. I don't think he was the biggest problem in that secondary or close to it. Now let's talk about some center options. Only if Atlanta loses Drew Dalman, center is going to become a bit of a need for the Falcons. I've only got one option. I've only got one target, and it's an internal option. It's Ryan Newsel, the guy who replaced Drew Dalman, who missed a good chunk of this past year with an ankle injury. Started 12 games over the past 2 seasons. He knows the playbook. He knows the team. He has not been disappointing or underwhelming. Is he as good as Dalman? No, he's not. Is he much cheaper than Dalman? Yes, he is. So if you're going to get into a bidding war with Drew, it's all right if you raise the French flag, surrender, and go, we're going to go with a much cheaper option, take that money and spend it elsewhere, maybe on like Asante Samuel and an edge rusher, right? I'm not advocating for Dalman to leave the Falcons. I'd like for him to come back, but I also have just been reading between the lines here, and all signs point to Atlanta is prepared to lose Dalman in free agency. All right, before we sign off, make sure to share the video if you haven't yet. Send it to a friend. Send it to a family member. Put it online. Tag me on Twitter at Matthew Petey, and that way I can give you a shout-out on a future episode. A super chat coming in from a couple. We've got Damon, Bramble, and Dave Joseph. And we got to 100 likes. So I guess I have to let's tell the story at the end of the mailbag. I think it's a good spot to put it. Yeah, you'll put it at the very end. Where was I? One Shot Gaming is here. Yeah, Dave Joseph. What's the word on Braylon Trice in his recovery? Their word is, I have no word. Like, I don't have an update. It has not been discussed, at least in front of the cameras, in front of the media. But my experience would tell you, when you're young, like Trice, and you suffer an injury, naturally the human body heals faster than when you're older. So my expectation is Braylon Trice is 100% ready to go for the first day of training camp. That would put him right around a 12-month recovery. I wouldn't eliminate him being a participant during minicamp, but we also have learned the Falcons don't want to push guys in the spring that are coming back from injuries because the season's not for a long time. So if he plays during OTAs and minicamp, that's bonus money. If not, I expect him to be padded up first day of camp. Dave, thank you for your super. And Damon Bramble, first time super chat of $20. Damon, thank you so much for supporting the channel. 2 claps for Mr. Bramble. 1, 2. Let's go. Thank you to everyone who super chats and supports the channel by liking and commenting. I know I sound cliche or maybe not genuine. I don't think that's the best word because believe me, you have no idea how much it means to me. Like when I get home, I see my dog, I see my fiance. One of the first questions is always like, how's your day? Good. How was your live show? Good. And it's like followed up with, these people super chatted. And so like, you guys are a part of my day, believe it or not. All right, let's get into the mailbag, though. I want you guys to have full control of the show. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. So if you have a question, use hashtag Falcons somewhere in your message in the chat. If you want to skip the line, Disney Fast Pass style, super chat. Although I miss the old Disney Fast Pass system. I grew up in a Disney family. Have not been to Disney since April of 2021. Coming up on 4 years, and that's probably the longest in my life I've gone without going to Disney. All right, here we go. Yep. Love it. It is mailbag time here. We're going to dive into a bunch of questions that were asked during our live show, which airs every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Quick reminder, though, and this is not like a self-plug, but a genuine reminder, please turn on your notifications, at least for the next 2 weeks. So if Falcons news breaks, you can find out about it, and you can get my reaction to it. So do yourself a favor, click the notification bell, and that way, over all the free agency hullabaloo, you are not in the dark. First question coming in via Super Chat from Philip. What are the chances Jimmy Lake held Judon back and his production was down because his role was changed? I think I misunderstood the question the first time I read this. I think there's a good chance that Jimmy Lake did not use Judon to the best of his abilities. And as a result, Judon finished with just 5.5 sacks and looked pretty underwhelming for a third-round draft pick that was given up in a trade. I would not rule out the Falcons bringing Judon back with the acknowledgement of, hey, last year was not purely on yourself. We have some skin in the game here because we having you drop in coverage at times, and that's not your strong suit. But I also think 100% of blame cannot go to Jimmy Lake. Judon had plenty of opportunities to sack the quarterback, and he didn't. Dave Joseph, trade Pitts for Trey all day. Like I said, we're filming this during our live show on Thursday, and this is going to be a very fluid situation, but surface level, I'm not opposed. And I know there are some really big Kyle Pitts stands out there, and I don't think I count myself one of them. I'm just living in reality. And here's the reality of the situation. Kyle Pitts played less than 50% of snaps the last 5 games of the season. Kyle Pitts has $10.8 million fully guaranteed as a cap hit this upcoming season. Kyle Pitts is entering the last year of his rookie contract. Kyle Pitts was deemed and viewed as underwhelming by Terry Fontenot after the season ended. All those signs point towards the Falcons do not believe Kyle Pitts is a long-term tight end for them. You might believe it, but it only matters what Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris believe. And if they don't think he is the tight end of the future, then why hold on to him when you could get a very good, like, reigning NFL sack leader player type of good for him? So, could Pitts still be good? Yes. But actions speak louder than words. And all the actions from Atlanta indicates they don't think he is. So why hold on to a guy who doesn't even play majority of the time? Yachty B, do you think we have a fair shot at getting Myles Garrett when he may want to pick a higher power spot like Philadelphia? All right, kind of a two-parter right here. One, do I think Atlanta's a fair shot? I don't think any team does because the Browns have been so adamant they don't want to trade Myles Garrett. So I'm now at the point where I don't think a Garrett trade is going to happen before the draft. I think the Browns are going to be stubborn. I think Garrett's going to be stubborn, and this is going to drag into training camp. And we'll see which side blinks first when Garrett starts holding out of training camp. As for Atlanta versus Philadelphia, the Browns are not going to do right by Garrett. If they don't want to trade him, which they don't, if they do decide to trade him, they're not going to go, all right, we changed our minds after everything we said. We are going to trade you, and we'd love to trade you to where you want to go. No. The last place the Browns want to trade Myles Garrett to is probably Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Why? Because those teams are picking at the end of round 1 every single year. They're going to get first-round picks. They want good first-round picks, not the 32nd overall pick. And you know who's got a much better chance of not giving the 32nd overall pick in their eyes? Atlanta Falcons. Like it or not, they're going to pick a team that's going to give them better draft picks for the future when you don't know who's picking where in 2026 round 1. Landon Hale, draft Mike Green and Harold Fannin Jr. and trade Kyle Pitts for a late round pick. I think Harold Fannin Jr. is going to go right around round 3, which Atlanta currently is not in. I think round 2 would probably be a little bit of a reach, but maybe if you fall in love with him. Although, having said all this, Atlanta, unless it was one big smoke screen and one big diversion, they are doing all their pre-draft visits and invites and whatnot meetings with defensive players. So with Fannin being a day 2 guy, I don't see them sinking a day 2 pick into an offensive player. As for the Mike Green part, I can get around that, yeah. Picking at 15 is a weird spot. You don't quite know who's going to be there for sure. But if he's available amongst some other players, I can get behind it absolutely. As for Kyle Pitts, I think you could probably get a 4th, maybe even a 3rd, depending on how much of the salary and the cap hit Atlanta eats. Archangel. I got Blake next up, actually. Which one is it? Blake. Here you go, Blake. Balake. We have not much time to free up cap space, and nothing seems to be happening. What are we waiting for? So, as I said earlier, twice now, this is being filmed during our live show. I kind of want to make a wager. I think this video is going to officially get published on Sunday, maybe Saturday. By Sunday, either Grady Jarrett or David Onyemata will either be released or agree to a pay cut and reduce their cap hit. I'm going to put that in stone. So when you're watching this, Blake, they will have made some moves. Archangel, next one up. From what you saw of Michael Penix so far, what QB would you compare him to? It's a good question. Okay, let's kind of go through. I don't like to do comparisons to like Mahomes, Allen, Brady. They're just so in their own kind of bucket of style of quarterback. You know what I mean? What about this one? Might not be a great comp. It's tough to do comps for quarterbacks. And anyone watching, feel free to give one as well. Phillip Rivers, the body physique, they're not the same. But Penix is not this crazy mobile quarterback, and Old Man Phil definitely wasn't either. Guys who will stand in the pocket, take a hit, but also love to go deep. Big Ben, I don't think I'd go Big Ben. Rivers, I'm going with right now. Maybe like, what about Jay Cutler? But slightly better decision making and not as many interceptions. I don't remember enough of Carson Palmer to give. This is my producer talking in my ear, by the way. I'm not schizophrenic here. I'd go maybe like a blend of Cutler and Rivers. Archangel, appreciate the question. NC Show, do you think Atlanta's sending 45 of 46 scouts that are defense knowledgeable a good idea, or do you think that's a bad idea? For me, I think it goes hand in hand on being good and bad. I mean, on one hand, we asked them to go out and improve the defense. They're doing it. This might be some overkill, though. I think we might look back and go, yeah, skipping, all the offensive players was probably a bad idea. Now, you only have 5 picks to work with, so if you planned on picking 5 defensive players, then you might as well look at all defensive guys. But when you only have 5 picks, then that means all defense, right? If you had 8 picks and you're like, we want to go 5 on defense, well, then yeah, you want to spread your chips around, look at some of the offensive guys, but plan to go all defense and you only have 5 picks, then I guess why waste your time with the offensive players? Well, the devil's advocate would be you might fall in love with an offensive player and realize there's a hidden gem here in round 4 we should really target. And even though it's not one of our biggest needs, we will thank ourselves in the future when we have an incredible player. We're going to look at some more questions in just a moment here, but first things first, there's an awesome deal going on right now at Fanatics. This Falcons sideline gear is 35% off when you go to chatsports.com/ATL sale. I know you probably already forgot that, so I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. At the moment, it may not seem like a great time to stock up on some winter-ish gear, but trust me, in like October, November, you will love yourself for having this for over a third off. So use our link to get this awesome sale today. One Shot Gaming. Should we trade Kirk for a second pick and trade that pick to the Bengals for Trey? Yeah, and One Shot Gaming, you and I should do acid together and go to the moon on a Tesla rocket ship. You're not finding a team in the CFL that would give you a second-round pick. There are European teams. I mean, the Warsaw Bulldogs wouldn't give you a second-round pick for Kirk Cousins. So, enjoy the LSD trip you're on, man. You're not getting a second for him. PD, why did you not ask Raheem why he didn't call the timeout? You know, that's a good question. Let me give you like an honest answer, too. One, my first time going to the NFL Combine. So it was a little bit of a soak it in kind of learning experience, so to speak. And what I learned is it's not easy to just get your question in. There are, let's say, 20 people all yelling out the same exact moment their question, and one voice just tends to emerge. I got a question in for Fontenot. I got a question in. Can we actually, right at this point here in the video, I'm going to put my question in for Fontenot and my question in for Morris. So now, and we're back. So it's not easy to get your question in. And then 3, I kind of pussied out. Like, he's standing right in front of me, and it's so much easier to be a tough guy on YouTube. And I was just, everyone's very nice. He was cordial with us, right? He was very respectful. And all of a sudden, I'm just going to, like, dial up the heat. And I felt like maybe burning a bridge the very first time I ever speak to him is not going to set me up nicely in the future. So a combination of, if I got to ask more than one question, maybe like my next question I would have been, hey, did you play Madden over the last few months to learn how to call timeouts? But when you only get one question, you don't feel like, let's be an asshole. So that's kind of the real reason why. I'm mad at myself, though, too. Dale, no power tools. That's just my toothbrush. That is not your toothbrush. Do you think we're getting new uniforms this year? No, I don't think so. Did you just know anything about carpentry? No, of course not. We have a few more questions, I think. All right, Dale. Sorry. Although I'm not a fan of the gradient ones. Jason, do you think Raheem should be on the hot seat with all the issue with Cousins and Judon not really working out? Internally, which we do not know, there is probably a much better understanding as to who is to blame for the Kirk Cousins and Judon acquisition. Were those players just kind of handed down to Raheem Morris? Maybe. For all we know, the Judon trade was completely powered by Terry Fontenot. And Raheem Morris was just along for the ride, and here's your roster, go work with it. I know Raheem Morris preached having, a good relationship, a good working relationship with the GM, like Les Snead and Sean McVay had in LA. So I'm not inclined to believe Fontenot did all this work, and Morris is just like the manager from the Oakland A's and Moneyball who's just along for the ride. But I think there's blame that can go to Morris. It can go to Fontenot. Probably a little bit of Arthur Blank because he was likely peer pressuring a little bit to make some splashy moves at quarterback. Taylor Vaughn, is Cade Mays a free agent? Tennessee guard who went to the Panthers. There's Cooper Mays who is going to be in the draft this year. He might go undrafted. I don't know if Cade Mays is a free agent. Last I saw, he was in Carolina. I'll never say no to a Tennessee Volunteer being signed. So sure, Taylor, let's go after Cade Mays. Why not? Okay, another super chat, and we'll actually end on this one right here. So we're doing this during our live show, as you've all heard by now. Taylor wants to know how many likes to share your proposal story to your fiance. We have 133 likes. I said 100 likes. I'm not going to try and lose all my viewership in the next 30 seconds, but basically, I, in advance, told my family and her family which weekend it was going to happen, had them all fly down to Dallas, where Chat Sports is located and where we live, and set up a secret operation of doing a proposal at the top of the Reunion Tower, which is this like sphere that looks over the whole city. I thought, by the way, this is the funny part. I was under the impression that the whole thing was going to be reserved for us because it was called the proposal package. No, it was not reserved. There were lots of strangers up there. It was kind of funny, but kind of awkward at the same time because I thought we'd be the only ones there. That was not the case. So a lot of people were just looking over the Dallas skyline. We're standing right next to us during it. And then I organized a surprise proposal engagement party with some caterers coming in because that was a lot cheaper, by the way, than going to a restaurant. So I recommend that instead. And that was a lot of fun. It was excellent, went very smoothly. So that is how it happened. Taylor, appreciate you. Oh, and one last funny thing. I had my fiance's grandparents fly in, and my fiance has her grandma's, like, by my phone, like, by my location, by my friends. And I had to painfully explain to grandma how to turn that off before she got here. Guess what didn't happen? All right. That's going to do it for us on our mailbag today. Thank you for watching and putting up with my, sure, kind of boring story at the end. But Taylor, I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see everyone later with more free agency content. Trucker Mike, fuck yeah. Let's go. Bingo. Trucker Mike. Trucker Mike, you better be here. Trucker Mike, come back. In the meantime, let's start guessing states. Well, I guess I don't want to start guessing states if he's not going to be able to give us the answer. Trucker Mike, please let me know if you're still watching. Aiden, great to see you. Thank you very much. I think we're all caught up in super chats, right? Yeah, perfect. For everyone that is super chatted today, big extra thank you for supporting the channel. Obviously, I love every single one of you, but when you super chat, I definitely appreciate the gratitude. Let's go! I am never, ZD Productions, I'm never firing Time Man the Buckeye. What state? Reed, what state?
I don't know why, but I really want to go with Florida.
Florida, I like it. You know, I'm going to go with, usually hangs out in the Southeast. I think he was in Mississippi last time. It's a little bit later today. Maybe he's driving across Mississippi. No, he tends to go north-south more. Give me Tennessee. I bet he just crossed over around the Memphis area. I'm going to go with Tennessee. Jeremy's also going to go with Tennessee. Aiden's got Kentucky. Vincent likes Wisconsin. Never forget when Vincent correctly guessed the city, let alone the state he was in. Where is Trucker Mike? Oh, I'm off the screen. Yeah, where am I? Peekaboo. ZD says North Carolina. We're going to end on this right here. Where is Trucker Mike? I did not. You got to put the background in there. Oh, no, I didn't see that. I was wondering what was going on. Oh, Trucker Mike says ZD, you're close. I'm not going to change my guess here. It's got to be South Carolina then, right? Or it could be Virginia. This is the best segment of the show. Where is... Ty, man, we have to get you a map ASAP. Some people, I grew up in a family where, you know how you had, like, Peter, you are correct. It's Tennessee? Oh, no. I'm guessing it's South Carolina. My second guess, right? Trucker Mike, it's got to be South Carolina. Kevin says South Carolina. Archangel 2. South Carolina. All right.
Thanks,
Trucker Mike, thank you very much. You have no idea how much I look forward to this. That will do it for us on our live show today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join the best Falcons YouTube community out there, and I'll see everyone tomorrow.